The world is a place with a lot of questions in it. It's a wonderful place full of mystery and interesting things happening. Just look out the window or turn on the news and you'll be able to formulate 1,000 different questions. Why did this person get elected? Why did this individual leave another individual? Why did this disaster kill thousands? Why is the climate changing? Why is this particular sector of the economy doing so well? Luckily, this mysterious world that we live in also comes with simple and easy to understand answers that can be explained to you personally in a minute or less for any given question that you might have about what's happening in the world. And every question only has one answer, and really you can just use one answer to answer pretty much all of the questions that you might possibly have, because everything in reality can be broken down to one very small set of factors. That's basically it. Thank you very much for watching and see you around, cunts. No! Fuck no! Listen, this is something that genuinely makes me angry, and if it doesn't make you angry, it should. I love complex phenomena. Politics, psychology, history, biology. Anything that's a very complex interplay of an innumerable amount of factors is something that I can stare at in fascination for hours on end. And while doing these videos, sometimes it is kind of my job to find explanations for these complex phenomena. I always do this in the knowledge that any kind of explanation that I could come up with will 100% not be the full picture, and there will always be other contributing factors to whatever is happening. And I always kind of think that everyone does that because it seems to me like it's fucking obvious. Things are always more complicated. Whenever you talk about something or even think about something, you need to see it through a certain lens, with a certain approach, with some kind of level of simplification, simply to be able to make sense of what is happening. But as time has gone on, I've kind of realized that a lot of people don't think this way, or maybe they're not aware that this is the case. As a matter of fact, recently I've been getting the feeling that most people are not aware of this, or willfully ignorant of it, which in my opinion is a whole lot worse. They walk through the world thinking that any question that they encounter, no matter how complicated, any problem has a simple answer. And usually that simple answer can be derived from whatever theory of everything they personally subscribe to. In politics, you have either the just mighty aristocrats sitting in dark lodges pulling the strings of the deep state, or it's just the idiocy of the masses voting against its own interests. In psychology, people will ask if it's nature or nurture. In history, it's either, oh, some individuals just rise above all others in their greatness and get to define the course of history, or it's nobody really has any agency ever because everything is causally predetermined, and all those people just so happen to be in some particular place, and if they hadn't been there, someone else would have made that same decision. In biology, it's genetically predetermined behavior or just a fluke of the brain. And when I list these things, it may be quite obvious that all of these dichotomies are utter nonsense. But is that really how you experience other people thinking about them? As a matter of fact, is that really how you yourself experience thinking about them? Because you shouldn't be thinking about things in this way. You shouldn't even be thinking about them in dichotomies at all. A lot of the time when I see discussions about why something in particular happened, someone will present a theory that usually ties in with the theory that they use to explain why everything happens in the world, and then somebody else who has a different theory by which they judge everything that happens in the world will go, no, you are wrong, and as a matter of fact, this other thing is what really happened and why this happened. And the thing is, most of the time, both of these theories could be true. They could even be equally true. But the discussion will then turn into which of these two factors that both absolutely contributed to the thing happening was the actual sole contributor to the thing that happened. and I do not understand why. Yes, history is absolutely defined by some people who just get to have more agency than others. They pass over the threshold for whatever reason. Maybe they're at the right place at the right time. It's a confluence of circumstances, and they get to make decisions that affect the world more than almost any other person alive ever. There's also a huge amount of external factors and the mass populace having opinions about things which spread as memes and become more popular than others, and then people make their own decisions, and the totality of those decisions is the decision of the demos. There's unexpected disasters and blessings, or expected disasters and blessings. They still happen. No economic boom or bust can be traced back to a single decision made by a single politician, or a single company crashing, or a single product being in higher demand than usual. Because even when you do manage to trace it to one thing, that thing happened because of a plurality of other contributing factors. All of the things are always influencing all of the other things through ways that we cannot even imagine. Causality isn't a simple two-point, one-direction system. It is a complex interplay of decisions beyond number and cascades of causality that go in all directions and none. The reason why any given psychopathic serial killer became a psychopathic serial killer isn't nature or nurture, and it also isn't some arcane point in between these two. It is both of them in varying amounts in this particular instance and situation, along with 1,000 other factors that you could classify into these two categories, but maybe sometimes you can't in the interest of nuance. And if you come up with a good reason, that doesn't mean it is applicable to every other similar situation. My blood boils when people compare political situations to the end of the Weimar Republic when Nazi Germany was coming into power. Because no, whatever situation you have, it is not like that. Nothing before that was like that, and nothing after it will be like that again. It is one particular moment in time that is incredibly complex. There wasn't one thing that happened that made the Nazis come to power. There wasn't one way that they used to come to power. There isn't a simple reason why this regime happened and why it did the things it did. Of course, not all of the factors contribute an equal amount. Some things are a lot more influential and important than others, but sometimes, even if a minor thing had been different, the major things would have been different too. You could talk about the sociopolitical and philosophical situation that allowed the Nazis to do the things that they ultimately did, but would it have been the same if Hitler had walked into the room where he would have been assassinated at one of the many assassination attempts that all failed? It's minor stuff, like he went to tie his shoes and that changed the timing the tiniest bit, and so everything turned out different. And no matter how much hindsight you have available to you, you'll never be able to do a full accounting of all of the factors because of the sheer number of factors. That doesn't mean you can't draw parallels between situations. You absolutely can, as long as you do it with the understanding that it's not a very simple causal relationship. You have to know that you are simplifying for the sake of being able to actually make a prediction that makes sense. It's important to learn from the past because it allows you to develop models that'll help you predict the future. And refining these models absolutely will give you better predictions. But if there are no simple answers in the past, there's not going to be any simple answers in the future either. And I think that's the scary bit about all this. Why people willfully ignore the fact that reality is too complicated even for the massive superintelligence of all of humanity to understand it. We want simple answers to complex phenomena because we want to know that there is an order to the world, that things make sense, no matter how terrible that order is. Because if there isn't such an order, or there is only such an order that we cannot possibly ever hope to understand, that is infinitely more terrifying. We want to know that no matter what kind of problem we will face, theoretically we would be able to make the right decision and come out of it the perfect way. We want to know that the person who ultimately makes the wrong decision had the right option lying on the table. The idea that the greatest super geniuses to ever have existed, with access to the best education and information available in the entire history of the human species, will only ever be able to make educated guesses for decisions that will affect the lives of hundreds and thousands and tens of thousands and hundreds of thousands and millions and billions and numbers beyond that is absolutely horrifying. But there are no blanket explanations for every similar situation, and there are no blanket solutions for every similar problem. Instead of the hand of God, the power of the market, the intelligence of the collective, it's all just chaos. And it's chaos not because it's random, but because we can't understand it. I mean, that is what chaos theory ultimately boils down to. It's all of the factors we cannot account for because we cannot know them, expressed as randomness, because that's how we experience them. And this is never going to change. No more accurate models, supercomputers or AIs, more competent geniuses, more accurate data will ever definitively stop the tide of chaos, only stem it. Everything happens for a million different reasons, and each of those reasons is an infinite fractal of causality in and of itself. There isn't a single explanation for everything that happens. There isn't even a small number of explanations for everything that happens. And if there is a theory of everything that we will ever discover, it'll be so abstract that we will not be able to understand it. It's not the patriarchy. It's not the international Jewry. It's not American imperialism. It's not communist infiltration. It's not the stupidity of man. It's not the invisible hand of economics. It's not the open marketplace of ideas. It's not structural racism. It is all of these things, it is none of these things, and it is a million other things in various amounts. And that is the answer to literally every question. Reasons. That's the truth. And don't believe anyone who tells you otherwise, because they're either stupid or they're lying. Thank you very much for watching this video. Like, comment, subscribe, share this to your relevant communities, but do not spam them. Consider supporting me on Patreon or Subscribestar. Maybe buying the ebook of my short story collection, because the normal book is not currently shipping. And in that spirit, don't be too disheartened by the fact that there are no simple explanations for everything that happens and no simple solutions for all of the problems that you as a person, an individual, and society as such is facing and will face in the future, because we've done fine so far. And see you around, cunts.